and welcome to an interview with show where, we interview people. Today we have a very special guest. It's a tattoo artist from Hawaii and a participant from Ink Master Season 4. Ladies and gentlemen, Roland Pacheco. Hello, Mr. Pacheco. How are you?
Hello. Hello. I'm good. How are you?
I'm great actually because I'm a big fan of Ink Master. I've been watching the show since I was in high school. It helped
Well,
me understand that tattoos are art and not something bad. So,
sure.
yeah, I mean, it's such a great honor because I keep thinking about I don't know when I used to go back to my house and watch each episode and seeing who wins tattoo of the day and who gets to get home. I don't know. It feels it's strange, but also feels good to have you as a guest. Yeah, but
Yeah, well, I mean it's good that you support the show and that you enjoy the show. Do you have tattoos?
no, but I want to, and I even designed one of the tattoos. It's a Celtic cross that I hope to get one
Oh,
day. Yeah,
nice.
it's a very important piece for me because it's in honor of my grandfather. I tend to redraw it each year around September, so you
Hmm.
might see it later. But well, we're in March, so that's a long time.
Right.
Uh, I mean, some people know you for a show, other people know you because of the tattoos. But well, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself? What inspired you to become a tattoo artist, first of all?
Well, I have been making a living from art
Hmm?
prior to becoming a tattoo artist for a while. So I've been making a living for about 30 years. Before that, I was a graphic designer and animator.
Oh, great.
Um, yeah, I've had many different careers, and so what inspired me really was it was kind of like always in the back of my mind, and always people were always telling me you should do, you should become a tattoo artist, you should become a tattoo artist. But the reality is that it was very difficult to figure out how to become a tattoo artist. You can't just go and apply, or back then I've been tattooing for 22 years, and back then you had to go through an apprenticeship, and there weren't too many people who were willing to do that. So I'm self-taught. But the thing that inspired me really was it's a part of my culture, and it was almost like it was always hanging over my head to embrace that part of my culture,
No,
and
that's
so I
pretty
finally
good.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for what I know, Hawaii has this history with tattoos. It's very important for the people in Hawaii. So yeah,
Mhm.
it makes sense in that context, and it's pretty good that you still continue to tattoo to this day, to be an artist, to do this art that people see and like. So congrats for that. By the way, not a lot
Thank
of
you.
people get that far. So yeah, congrats. And well, I think that the answer is a bit obvious about this, but do you have any style of tattooing that you like the most? Because for what I know, there are artists that can do anything. They're
Hmm.
jacks of all trades in terms of
Hmm.
tattooing. So. But of course, there's people that like maybe biomech, maybe they like portrait, maybe they like
Sure.
Celtic, but any style that you prefer?
I just like things that are challenging because it makes me come out of my comfort zone, and it makes me feel like I'm actually helping to create something that someone is envisioning in their head. So yeah, I don't have a particular style that I am drawn to, even though I specialize in Polynesian tattoo because that's where I'm at in Hawaii
Yeah.
here. But No, I really just I like my clients to have good ideas that I can work with. That's my favorite style, is when someone comes up to me with a good idea and I can actually add value to that, and then I can create that on their skin.
Oh no, that's pretty good because tattoos are tell a story. Actually, I think that that's also what the people from Hawaii used to tell about the tattoos. They tell
Hmm.
stories. So even if it's something simple, something big, even if it's something as usual as a school, it's part of a story, it's part of something. And no, that's pretty interesting that you mentioned that you like challenges. So they're like, I want
Yes.
to. If someone comes now and tell you I want a back piece, maybe 10 schools, each a different style, would you do it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I like that. See, because as a tattoo artist, you tend to do a lot of the same things over and over again because
A school
that's
and
what people
roses.
want. Because, but yeah, exactly. That's what people want. That's what they see. And so they keep asking for that. And so after a while, it's like a chef or somebody else who just, you're making the same dish over and over again.
Yeah.
And, you can't really make it any more different because that's what it is. So I like it when people come up to me and they have a different idea and a different perspective on what they consider art. And that tends to happen more in Europe
Mhm.
um, than in America, because in America, people really know what they want, or they think they know what they want. But in Europe, they are just like, just do whatever you want. And so that gives a little bit more freedom, a lot more freedom.
Which is good for the artist, when people tell you do
Yeah.
your things, sometimes it ends
Yeah.
well, because there are
Yeah.
some artists like that. And it's pretty good
Yeah.
to know that there are artists like this that they want to please the clients and want to do, I don't know, different things that
Yeah.
they're not part of their comfort zone. So those are the better artists, in my opinion. But I think that after we get to know you a bit at the moment, I think that the main question is your experience on the show in Master on season 4.
Mhm.
Why don't you tell us about your experience in the show?
Well, I was invited to go onto the show, so I didn't apply.
Really?
Yeah, and so they invited me and then one other of the cast to go. And so I didn't really know if I wanted to do that. I didn't know if at that point in my life I wanted to be on television and, bare my soul to the world.
Makes sense.
Um, and so, I was kind of really hesitant at first because I knew what would happen or what could happen. And so I was pleased to be at the position that I was in at the time. And, I didn't tell anybody about it. I didn't tell my wife about it until
Oh,
it was like 2 weeks or so. I'd gotten the invitation and I was like sitting on it for like 2 weeks. And then I finally went in there and I said, hey, I got invited to be on the show and I don't really know if I want to do it or not. And she told me, you know, okay, it's your choice. If you don't want to do this, that's your choice. But if you don't do this, then you have to understand that you can't go around telling everybody that you were invited to the show and you didn't go.
yeah, that's a
And
wasted
so I was
opportunity.
like, you know me too well. So I did. I went, and it was something that I didn't expect because at that time the show was very new, and the format hadn't been established yet, and they had changed a lot of the formatting from the seasons prior. So with our season, they brought in producers from UFC,
Mm.
and they were very. It was a very different show. It
Hmm.
was more. We tattooed every single challenge, which they don't do now. And which was very rare because it was like you didn't have chance to show your artistic quality, your artistic flair, unless it was just tattooing. Like I couldn't paint a picture or draw something. It was like this is all I had to work with.
Yeah, the difference because comparing season 4 to season 14, I don't think that there
Mhm.
were a lot of tattoos challenges. Sometimes they did things with candy, they did things with postcards, and
Yeah.
I think that no, in your season the vast majority were tattoo challenges. Like if I remember correctly, the team up challenge where one drew and two tattooed, two tattoo.
Hmm.
You won that one actually. I remember
Yeah. Yeah.
correctly. Yeah, so
Yeah.
and it's very interesting because I also remember that the top four usually won the challenges, and we're like, that was a different because yeah, Sasaj won, but also you won, Baba won.
Right.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
a bit of an encyclopedia. I like to investigate about my guests. Sorry.
Oh wow, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, you said that. Yeah, so that was a good challenge. It was the whole thing was very difficult for me because I didn't understand what I was getting into, and I didn't understand what was, reality television. There's so much more that goes on behind the scenes, and there's so much more that people don't understand. They take us all and make us all live in one dorm, and we share two bathrooms, and there's 16 people, and it's crazy. So I wasn't prepared for that at all because it was in the middle of wintertime in New York, and it was freaking snowing, and I'm not from the snow, so it was difficult to
The
get used
massive
to.
difference, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was a big difference. So, through that, um, I I feel like the show really was something that I really wish I would have planned on. I would have planned better to be on instead of just I was just like I'll just go and see what happens, which
Makes sense.
it worked, but it's difficult too. You're always on camera, so there's always the camera in your face like all the time. So I wasn't used to that either. I wasn't used to, I can't go to the bathroom without 20 people following me to the bathroom and listening to me in the bathroom and You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they're waiting for you to break down and start crying so that they can all come in and film you. And so you're not ever alone. And it's a very difficult thing to do, to be in that
No,
position.
yeah, makes sense. And another thing that I noticed, which is with each season, is that they give a style to the artist. What I mean, some people wear suits and ties, some people wear
Hmm.
just normal shirts. I think that you
Hmm.
were like a vest and because
Yeah.
again, I went back, I watched some scenes of the episodes, and I was like, each style. So you don't wear that all the time, right? Because I know it's for
I don't wear that
repetition.
at all.
Oh,
So it's, yeah. And so it's important to understand that when you get into something like this in reality television, there are parts of it that, people say it's not real. And I can only speak for what I've been through.
mhm,
Um, but, our show was real. Everything in it was real, but there were standards that they had to hit. There are targets that they wanted to hit. So they needed to have certain characters because we are all characters on the show. That's how they
of course,
refer
of
to us,
course.
as characters. So each character has their own style. And so they asked me, they said, "Oh, when I did my interview with them, I had a tie because I wanted to dress nice. So I had a
Elegant,
tie
yeah.
and a vest and I was nice." And they said, "Well, there's already two or three guys on the show that dress like that." And I said, "Oh, okay." And they're like, "Would you be opposed to wearing a sweater?" And I was like, "I don't wear sweaters." And they're like, "Well, you know, you could." And I was
Yeah,
thinking, well, maybe, I'm from Hawaii. It's hot over here. I'm going to be over in the cold, so maybe a sweater would be good.
of course, of course.
And so I didn't realize that they had really wanted me to do this kind of really, pink and purple sweaters and all this stuff. I would, And so they went out and they spent a bunch of money on my wardrobe. Hey, it looks good on you, man.
Thank
But
you.
they went out and spent a bunch of money on my wardrobe, um,
Which is good. I mean,
which is good, And so, yeah, so I was wearing sweaters, which I don't wear sweaters, I don't, you know. So, in that sense, there was some stuff that was manufactured because they needed the difference in of characters. You know what I mean? To be able to tell them apart. Um,
yeah, because
and so,
yeah,
no, it's just there's little tiny things in that process of creating television that you don't necessarily see, but that is there.
yeah, and I think that's that helps differentiate each other because I've seen this. It's not a stereotype, but tattoo artists tend to sometimes they wear pretty colors, sometimes they wear black clothes.
Hmm.
So just imagine this: imagine if 16 people wear the same style, same
Right.
jackets. So it's going to be difficult to differentiate each other. So
Exactly.
they need
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
They need people with tank tops. They need people with ties, with the
Yeah.
bowling shirts. It was
Yeah.
necessary. Yeah, it's a bit strange that someone from Hawaii, a hot place, decide to use clothes for winter for more
Yeah.
breezy weather. But well, at least it helped you stand out. So
Well,
mhm.
yeah, exactly.
And you stood out because honestly, someone that was in like what 13 place, I think that you were.
Mm.
I try to remember that. I try to remember. Most
Hmm.
people around that spot are easily forgotten, but you aren't forgotten.
Yeah.
Still to this day, people talk about your spot and your tattoos. And
Yeah. And I think a lot of it had to do with, what you said originally about Acid Cat, the
oh
tattoo that
yeah,
I did. And that really, that tattoo was a very unique tattoo because um, prior to that, that was the first challenge that we had.
flash
And
tattoos. Yeah.
so, so what people don't understand or what they don't know maybe is that up until we did that tattoo, I was locked in a hotel room for a week. And so I couldn't have contact with anybody. I didn't have any communication with. They take your wallet, all your identification, and everything. And so
Damn.
I was locked in the hotel room and I couldn't leave because I didn't have the key. They wouldn't give me the key. So the only people I talked to was room service that would come by and give me my food, and the producers that would come by and talk to me. And so after that, they said, okay, they put us on this bus and they said, you guys cannot talk to each other. And so they take us to this old, like a abattoir. It's an old slaughterhouse.
Mhm.
And they put us in this room for 5 hours and we can't talk to each other. And they sit us in these folding chairs in this like just destroyed, devastated room. And then they said, so when we come back in, you guys get ready to tattoo. That's all the instructions that we had. And so we sat there for 5 hours not talking. And then they come in and they're like, okay, tattoo. And they let us out into this huge fake tattoo convention.
Mhm.
And no one knew what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. And so I was terrified, you know,
Makes sense, yeah.
I was like, where am I? What am I doing? And so the first person to come up to me was this girl. And it would seem very strange to me because it just seemed very like she came from a different direction. She came, everyone was coming in from this side and she came in from this side. And then she was talking about stuff that oh yeah, looking at your portfolio. And I said, you haven't even seen my portfolio. So there was all this weird stuff. And she said, this cat, I want you to put on me of the most just craziest looking cat you could possibly imagine. And, I want it to look like a zombie and I want it to look like this and that. And I said, oh shit, okay. So I freehanded that cat on her. And I was really just so terrified of what was happening around me that I was just concentrating on the tattoo and the cameras were doing this and going around. And I just was like pretending like none of it was happening. So as I was talking to her, I was doing the tattoo and she loved it. And I figured,
It's
as
the
long
thing
as the
that
client's
matters.
happy,
Yeah,
yeah, that's all
it's the
that
thing that
matters.
matters because sometimes in the show there are people that, the judges and other contestants are like, this tattoo is horrible, it's bad, but
Yeah,
what matters is that the one that get it to like it, you know?
she loved it. Yeah, she loved it.
And that's great. I mean, for me, I never understood much the hate about Acid Cat. I think that it was a
Mhm.
strange tattoo, but I'm saying that in a good sense of strange.
Yeah. Oh
It's a
yeah.
color explosion. For me, it's like your
Yeah.
cat being disintegrated, something like that. So
Yeah. I
I don't
mean,
like
it
that.
really, after the show aired, I saw a bunch of people copying the tattoo. I just go around random places in Florida. I remember I saw someone with a tattoo of that. And, it's like the reality was that every one of the crew members and everyone on the show loved the tattoo.
Mhm.
Um, and actually, I did a redemption episode, which never got aired.
Oh,
And
really?
so, yeah, so
No,
I did
that's
yeah, I did a
oh,
redemption episode that was really, really good, and I think that's why they didn't air it because they didn't do really good stuff. They like drama, and
of
so
course they want fights. There were people yelling
they
and
want people fighting. Yeah, and so Dave actually came up on that episode and said Acid Cat is my favorite tattoo of all time on the show, and I was like, wow, that's crazy, And so um, when I made shirts, I gave all the crew members shirts. I came back and I gave them all shirts, and they wanted posters and all this stuff. And so it really was something that I think a lot of even Oliver Peck came to, he tweeted to me, "Hey man, it's my favorite tattoo." Also, I just had to say what I had to say.
wow.
Yeah, and
He
so it was
he
like
he called he called that thing. I think that if I remember correctly, what the he's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and yeah,
And that
this
was funny. It was funny.
yeah, but of course they had to edit it to make drama. They make the edit,
Right,
make
exactly.
drama, make people look bad.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
it's actually because it's probably one of the most famous, infamous tattoos of all time of the show because
it
yes,
is.
people talk about good pieces. They talk about pieces that either won, either lost.
Hmm.
But one thing that will always remain is Acid Cat, and
Yeah, Acid Cat.
well,
Every time they want to relaunch a new season of Ink Master, what they used to do was they would post a picture of Acid Cat,
mhm.
and then everyone would get all upset, and then they would generate the clicks and everything from that. And
Yeah,
so
we
I would just let that go. And then one year they did that, and I said, "Hey man, why don't you release my redemption episode where Dave says it's his favorite tattoo of all time?" And stop doing all this bullshit. And that's when Oliver Peck was like, "Hey, it's mine too." He tweeted, "Yeah, I'm sorry." Not sorry, he didn't apologize, but he said, "Hey,
of
it's
course, of
one of
course,
my." So yeah, and so it's one of those things where I mean, there's after that there was a show called The Good Place, and
yes.
they had a character named Acid Cat. Um, and there was let me see, it's a Jeopardy question.
Mhm.
Like there's an actual Jeopardy question
Yeah,
of
yeah. I
of
actually
that.
yeah, I saw
Yeah.
it. So
So to me, that's like I've already, you know what I mean? I did something that made a Jeopardy question. So to me, that's all worth it,
oh
know?
yeah, of course. It's like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
said, some people remember the winners, but sometimes people remember the people that didn't win more. And
Sure.
I think that yeah, people remember the top four season four, but they also remember Acid Cat, and they also
Yeah.
remember you in some way. So I mean that's never going to go, and
No.
that's good
No.
about it. That's good about it. And it's pretty interesting that you mentioned all of that because we don't see everything in the show. I mean, they how much they take to record an episode? 3 4 days. So they were like
Yeah. So each episode is 3 days. So you have
72 hours.
72 hours and you're working for about, I'd say, wow, you're working about 16 to 18 hours a day. So each day they'll have a challenge,
Mhm.
So you wake up in the morning, you eat, and then you go out and you do the challenge. And the whole challenge will take the entire day. So you start at about 9 o'clock in the morning and you end at about 12 o'clock at night. Um,
Damn.
and then yeah, it's and that only sets up the challenge because the next day you actually do the challenge. You know what I mean? Because the first day you're filming, drawing, and talking to the client and all the stuff, and then the next day they film you actually doing the challenge and doing the tattoo. Because then they give you 6 hours to do that. Um, and then the next day is interview day. So that day is you're in front of the camera and you're talking to the producer and they're asking you questions where they have, you're just standing there talking.
Yeah,
And so that was, to me, that was one of the most difficult things to do because it's like being interrogated, and,
yeah,
and
that's not
so
good.
it gets to be, yeah, after a while, you're just like, I want to just, tell me what I need to say because I want to go eat. They'll do things like hold food away from you and stuff like that. Like it's very not what you think it is. At least my team.
Yeah, yeah, we're
So
lower.
they were very much like, messing with our food and our air and messing with all aspects of our lives. They would break things, they would break our things and you make it hard for us. They would change our little bottles that we use to wipe the skin.
Mhm.
They put alcohol in there instead of green soap, so we sting the client. I mean, it was freaking out of control. So
Yeah, for
I think
cameras, for
they've
the impact.
yeah, I think they've changed that a lot because of just the liability of it.
Yeah, of course, but I think that well, a lot of things changed, but yeah, I've seen the interviews, and I don't know why I was sure that they did all the interviews at the end.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, that they after you were eliminated, they actually put you in a room for a few days, and they ask you all the questions related because
Mhm.
all the contestants are with the same clothes that they were in each confessional, if I remember correctly.
Right. So you have to every single day you're wearing the same clothes. And so when you are done with that particular day, you take that set of clothes and you hang them on. They have a little thing
Yeah,
where you put all your clothes so that you can change back into that because you're not wearing the same stuff for that long. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
then yeah. So you change back into the interviews. That keeps the continuity going. But yeah, that's how they
But
do it.
well, Chuen,
No,
I
makes
would like
sense.
to ask you a piece of advice, not only for me, but people who wants to get their first tattoo actually. Uh,
Hmm.
what advice you'd give to someone getting their first tattoo in general, because I know that there are like multiple things to think about. So,
Hmm. Well, the best thing that you can do is find, a tattoo artist that you feel like best represents your vision. And so you might want to try to uh, go around to different studios and talk to different artists and look through their books and look at their portfolios and see what they're capable of doing. Um, the best thing that I could say for people who are first starting out, to get a tattoo is you want to make sure that you are getting something that you will be comfortable living with because you don't want to get a tattoo that you're like, oh man, maybe I'll get it covered up or you don't want to
yeah.
go down that road. You want to make sure that it's something because eventually, yeah, you can get covered with tattoos that mean nothing. But your first tattoo, I think, should be pretty special. That being said, you have to trust the artist. And what I said in the beginning about finding the artist that you do trust is you have to be able to give that person control of your vision
Mhm.
because that will make the artist motivated to give you the tattoo. If you go in there and you say, this is exactly what I want, you can't change this at all, then you're actually you're confining them to a certain degree. And then if they don't match your vision of what you have exactly, then you're not going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
So, so it's important to understand that there's a lot of dynamics going on with the tattoo artist. There's a lot of, you have to trust them, then they have to trust you too. It's a mutual thing. Tattoo is a it's an exchange of energy. It's not necessarily one person doing something for one person. It's you're trying to, or I believe that my job is to really make what you have in your head happen a reality. And so I have to understand what's going on in your head. You have to be able to articulate that to some degree so that I can do the best job that I possibly could. Um, but I think the best advice is really just finding the artist that you feel like you will click with because you're going to spend a lot of time with this person.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And so
yes.
if they're a jerk or whatever, then you don't want, you're like, why am I paying this person to be a jerk to me and tattoo, so you want to make sure that it's somebody that you really, get along with well and you respect.
And have a good time because yeah, it's not like the
Yeah.
show where you can do it in maybe you can do it in 6 hours, but it's going to be more painful. It's not going to be that good of experience maybe. So
Yeah. And a lot of times people have in their minds things that aren't realistic. And so they think that, maybe, oh, it's my first tattoo. I can get a whole sleeve. And it's like, no, you can't because, you know, it's a process. And 2 hours into it, I'm going to tell you, you're going to be like, what am I doing? You're like, what did I get myself into? So it's good to start off with something that you feel like you can handle. So maybe a 1 or 2 hour tattoo.
something small,
Um,
something small.
Something small so that you understand the process because as you're getting tattooed your body responds to it by sending out endorphins that numb the process of getting a tattoo. It numbs the skin, and so that only lasts for a certain amount of time in your body, and then after that it becomes a mental game for you to have to push through.
Yeah,
And so it's hard for people to I can do this, and it's like I've seen 6'6" men cry because they
the
can't handle
pain.
this after. Yeah, and it's crazy.
But well, it's experience and experience are like that. And well, that's the best advice, especially for my part, because the Celtic cross that I mentioned at the beginning is not
Hmm.
it's the size of a A4 paper. So it's not something
Okay.
small. So I'm not going to start with that. I'm waiting for a number of things. So yeah, if I get my first tattoo, something small, so something like, a
Don't
little.
go you yeah, I mean, see, the thing is what I'm saying, when you go really small, you're not giving your body the chance to release those endorphins
Mhm.
and deal with the pain. So if you get a really tiny tattoo, you're just going to feel it, and then it's going to be done in 10, 20 minutes,
Yeah, not
and
the
you're not
same.
going to it's not that you don't understand the process. The process is you have to let your body adjust to the process of getting a tattoo in order to
Mhm.
understand in the future, well, if I want a bigger tattoo, what it is that you have to actually work through in order to achieve that.
Yeah, yeah. I think that we're going to take the advice. I mean, I'm going to take it the day I get my first tattoo, but
Hmm.
that's probably going to take years. But well, who knows? So yeah, I would say that. Thank you very much for coming to this interview, for simply taking some of your time here. I know that
Of
there's
course.
a time difference, 5 hours at least. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it means a lot that someone from one of my favorite shows accepted. And bit of a funny story. I decided to try. I said, you know what? I follow a lot of people from different shows: Sing Master, Hell's
Hmm.
Kitchen, Survivor. The first one
Oh,
I
nice.
see, I'm going to send a message. And when I opened my Instagram, the first post was yours, and I was like, "Oh,
Oh,
okay,
nice.
let's go with Roland Pacheco, the creator of Acid Cat." And
That's
I
perfect.
don't regret letting Destiny decide at this interview because I had a lot of fun. Uh,
Hmm.
I think that people that watch the show are going to be surprised about the behind the scenes of Ink Master and well,
Hmm.
the history behind Acid Cat, which, like I said, it will never die. So yeah, I mean,
No, ask the cat to live forever.
woohoo! So
Yeah.
well, if any of you want to follow Roland Pacheco, his Instagram is Roland Pacheco, so you can see all of his art,
Mhm.
and he
It's Roland
also
Tattoo.
Roland Tattoo, sorry. And he
Yeah.
also has a page that I'm going to put in the link of the description if you want to see uh,
Hmm.
all of his projects, his tattoos, his paintings, his books, the Acid Cat
Hmm.
related shirts. So, well,
Yep.
if you want to see it. So, thank you
Yeah.
very much again, Mr. Pacheco. Well, I hope you have
You're very
a great
welcome.
day. And as you said, Acid Cat will never die.
That's right.
Bye.
All right. Bye. Aloha. So a lot of people were drinking, and and you weren't eating, so you had, and it was just like people were freaking drinking bottles of booze, man, and it was
Like a
just like
party.
that's yeah. And then you go on and you film, and
Oh.
so that's yeah.